You are listening to The World as I See It podcast. 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 As I See It podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The World as I See It podcast. So, I want to talk about something that I feel like is a huge part of, my day-to-day life. And I think that it's very important. And it is, how can you support me? Or, why is it so important to have a support system? And I feel like this is a huge topic because it's not just a one-size-fits-all thing. It's about the people that you have in your corner and how they impact your life every single day. And it's not just like the support that, crossing the street. That's not the support that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the support that will stand behind you and fight for the materials and things that you need. And that's why I feel like I'm very, very lucky to have the support system that I have. Because it's important, because as you know, I am the only blind student in my public school. And, I have, the teachers, the community to help me advocate for what I need in the school. And I will be honest, I'm glad that I am in the public school system instead of a school for the blind. Now, I'm not saying a school for the blind is bad. It is good. I have been at one for a summer camp over the summer. But I feel like being in a public school, it has taught me how to advocate for myself in the real world. It's taught me to be more confident in how to tell people when something isn't working. And it's built up my independence. I feel like if I was sheltered in a specialized school, I may not have had developed that same level of independence that I have. And the biggest thing about my family and my inner circle is that they don't shelter me. They don't treat me like I can't do anything or I'm fragile. They're never like, oh, you can't do this because you can't see. Oh, this is too hard. Instead, if I come to them and I'm like, I want to try something that may be challenging, their first response is, we're going to find a way to make it happen. And that mindset is everything to me. And that's what I live by. That I can put, I can set, my mind on something and do it. I can do anything that I set my mind to. Even if I do it a little differently and even if it's more challenging. I truly believe that's why I'm, as confident as I am today. Because if my parents were overprotective and tried to do everything for me and keep me in a bubble, I wouldn't feel nearly as independent as I do. And I'm so thankful that they don't hold me back. They have taught me that, a real support system is one that listens to you and stands beside you. And whenever something is not working and I need to advocate, they're there encouraging me and challenging me. And those things, they go hand in hand to help build up my confidence. If I ever need them to help advocate for something or, anything, if I need somebody in my school to help me advocate for something, my community, my school system, whatever, they're going to help me and fight for what I need if I needed them to. And I also want to shout out the specific professional support that I have. I'm very lucky because I live in a small town. And if you know small towns, some small towns' resources, they can be pretty limited. I feel so grateful that I have an orientation and mobility, or O&M, specialist and a teacher of the visually impaired, or TVI. Because I know that there are so many people out there who need that kind of support and help and just can't get it because of their, where they live and those limited resources. And having those people in my corner, it's a huge part of why I'm able to navigate my world. And yes, my small town is limited. I don't have like Uber or anything like that. But I do have O&M, so I do know how to use a cane and that kind of thing. And there are some people, I'm sure, in some small towns who need that, but they can't get it. And, when I need to talk to my teachers because something in class isn't working, they do listen most of the time. A lot, they listen. And we figure out a workaround together. And I may take a few tries, maybe one way doesn't work, so I have to advocate and go, this way's not working, let's try this. And we figure out a solution. And, even this podcast is having people in my corner. When I started this podcast, my support, my community, my family, they were right there. They encouraged me on those days where things got frustrating or I felt like I, just wanted to give up on the whole thing. And I'm so thankful that I didn't, because this podcast has helped so many of you and you have learned so much, and I'm so grateful for that. And they didn't let me quit. And to me, that is what true support looks like. Helping you push through the moments when, you maybe doubt, when I'm doubting. And I've seen this same kind of support in my church community too. Even though I'm usually in youth for message, I stay in regular service for worship. And one day, the pastor who teaches the Sunday morning services asked me for some feedback. And he wanted to know how he could make things better for me. And I'm not going to say his name for privacy reasons, but if you're listening, you know who you are. So I told him that the worship was a struggle for me, because every once in a while there'd be a Sunday where I didn't know any of the songs, and I would just be there like unable to participate because I didn't have, the lyrics, whereas everybody else could look at the screen and read the lyrics. Now, I did, before, getting the lyrics and stuff, I was bringing my technology to church for, reading the Bible. But after that conversation, the pastor and I, we came up with a plan. And when we realized the first way that we tried wasn't working, he didn't just stop and go, oh, well, I'm sorry that didn't work. Instead, we both came up with a solution. He could have easily just left me hanging, left me figuring it out my own. And to be honest, yeah, I probably could have eventually figured it out. But the fact of that is he cared enough to help me find a solution. And that means a lot, even though it's such a small thing. So now instead of just using an app, I use the app and Google together. And we found that works awesome. And it didn't take that long to fix. But, the fact that he didn't give up, it means the world. And the fact that he also wanted to know my feedback also means a lot, because it shows that, even when I'm not in service all the time, that he wants me to be included. And that means so much. So, if you're listening, thank you. And it isn't remember, it's important to remember that support doesn't always have to be some huge life-changing events. The small things are just as big. Whether it's my parents or my para taking me to Seekia every month so that I can be with community and get experiences that I normally don't get to have, or someone just taking the time to listen to my feedback. Those moments do add up. And a support system isn't there to stop me or tell me things aren't too hard. Life is going to be hard sometimes anyway. A support system is there to stand behind you and help you move forward. It's about listening. Sometimes they challenge me to do things. And, maybe I need that challenge to take a step that may be out of my comfort zone. So, to all of the people who support me, thank you. It really does make a difference. Even, on the days that are hard. So that's why it's really important to have a support team. Seekia is also, they support me, and I'm glad that, my parents and my para and everybody who can takes me to Seekia, because I hang out with fiercely impaired people who I can relate to. So, if you have questions, feedback, or just have ideas for what I should talk about next, let me know. You can comment down below if you're watching on YouTube, or you can email me at theworldasIseeitpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for hanging out and listening to my perspective and how I see the world. Stay curious, keep listening, and I will talk to you in the next episode.
You've been listening to The World as I See It podcast.